Hello everyone, FPL Raptor here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video we have my Game Week 9 team selection where I need to decide whether I use my free transfers and also whether to play the bench boost or not. If you do enjoy today's video, please do smash that like button, and if you're new around here, make sure to subscribe as well. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So guys, I'm going to try and keep this video a little bit shorter today. Famous last words, as you'll know if you've been subscribed for a while. And if you've not been subscribed for a while and you're not subscribed right now, please consider doing so. But I always say I'm going to make it a short video and it never is. But the reason for that, I've already released loads of content this week and quite a few of them were long videos. So let's keep this short and snappy, try and work out what on earth I'm going to do with my team. And as always, I would love your help down below as well. I have 2 free transfers and no money in the bank. So no flexibility with the money, but the 2 transfers, of course, does allow me to make a downgrade somewhere and make an upgrade elsewhere. And there are 2 things I need to decide. Firstly, do I want to bench boost? And if so, if we get the update we're expecting around Joachim Andersen, do I sell him? And also, if I am going to bench boost, is there another move I'd like to make? And if I don't bench boost, do I still want to use the transfers this week? Get aggressive once again, because I used 2 last week as well, and maybe sell some underperforming assets. So I just need to work out in my mind, bench boost yes or no, and how aggressive do I want to get? Or do I want to roll a little bit, get to 3 or 4, and then that will give me more flexibility in terms of making multiple downgrades, which might allow multiple better upgrades in the future. Hopefully that all makes sense. But yeah, once you've seen my team in its entirety, let me know what you would do. Let's start with the goalkeepers and defenders. So as of right now, I've got Nick Pope against Fulham at home in my starting 11 and Dubravka against Wolves away on my bench. Very happy to have both of them this week. It's one reason that I am looking at a potential bench boost. And the plan has always been to bench boost in Game Week 9. But yeah, that injury to Joachim Andersen has made it a little bit tricky, amongst a few other things as well. But yeah, Pope and Dubravka, very happy. I will be starting Nick Pope. I just see Newcastle was a much better defence and at home. And also Fulham haven't had the best attacking data either. So yeah, that's the situation with the goalkeepers. With the defenders, as of right now in my starting 11, I'm starting Tarkowski against Spurs at home, Gabriel against Crystal Palace at home, and Senesi against Forest at home, with Rodon against West Ham at home as my first sub, and I'd be pretty happy starting him this week in all fairness. And then, like I said, Anderson, 3rd sub. So, as of right now, I've not yet seen an update of me recording this, but it sounded like it was either a hamstring or groin. I think it's a hamstring injury. Regardless, when it's muscular, and when it forces off a player like Anderson, I would be extremely surprised if he's just back straight away. Now, if it was a grade 1 hamstring, which a few people are suggesting, that might mean that he's back very soon, and he could be back as early as sort of game week 10 or 11. But I don't think I'd want to risk it. Even if we got the news from Marco Silva that maybe he was like touch and go, I can't risk bench boosting when I don't even know if one of my players is going to be fit or not. And then the rest of my team, there are also issues with that as well. So, yeah, I need Anderson to be fully fit for me to be able to bench boost with him on the bench. Now, my concern with selling Anderson, and I'll discuss that when we look at the replacements, I have nothing in the bank. So the only players I can go to are 4.5 million or cheaper. Now, I could go for like a Sunderland defender, Mukiele, Alderete. They look like they're offering great value. Even a Stev hasn't been bad at all. He's getting the DEFCON 2. And there are some cheaper defenders like Juve, Van Hecke that I really like, although Juve was, of course, on the bench in Game Week 8, so maybe not him. The defender I would really want if I was to replace Anderson, you can guess it because you know I love him, it's Richards. But I would be selling Anderson, who, yeah, doesn't have a great fixture anyway, but for Richards, who has Arsenal away, to bench boost. So I'd be using a transfer to buy a player who's playing against the best team in the league at the moment, who I don't expect to keep a clean sheet. And even if he does get DEFCON, he's probably going to concede 2+ goals, I would imagine. So we're looking at like a 3-pointer, unless he somehow gets a clean sheet, or I get lucky and he gets an attacking return. So yeah, I'm just not feeling great about selling Anderson in a straight move. So what that then comes back to is, well, I probably want to upgrade Anderson. I want to get to someone like a Timber if I throw up an Arsenal slot, or Munoz, or even a cheeky punt on someone like Reijnders. Those are the sort of players that I would like to get to instead, which of course then requires the 2 transfers. So yeah, that's the decision I need to make, because obviously if I'm not bench boosting this week, I don't need to sell Anderson. Gabriel and Senesi are fantastic this week. Very happy to have them. Both have good home fixtures. And I know on paper, maybe you look at Tarkowski against Spurs at home and you say, that's not the best fixture. But Spurs are struggling a little bit to create chances. They've had multiple games this season where they've accumulated less than 1 XG. I'm recording this after their Champions League game on Wednesday. Another game that they struggled to create chances in. So I actually don't mind this fixture. And Tarkowski is averaging 11.5 defensive contributions per 90. And then, like I said, if for some reason I got cold feet on starting him, I've got Rodon as well. So very happy with those four. I do not need to sell Anderson unless I want to bench boost. The only other player that I could sell is Tarkowski himself. It's nothing to do with me not liking Tarkowski and everything to do with how expensive he is, because I'm not selling Gabriel. Senesi's only 5 million and I bought him at a cheaper price anyway, and Rodon and Anderson are cheap too. So the only player that I can sell in my defense if I need to free up money is Tarkowski. So yeah, Gabriel, Senesi, Rodon going nowhere. Anderson will only be sold if I need to bench boost or I want to bench boost this week, and Tarkowski will only be sold if I need the money. So pretty okay in the defense, dependent upon the chip. Let me know what you would do. Let's take a look at the midfield. So moving on to the midfield, and I'm very happy with 3 of these players and less happy with 2 of them. And I say less happy, 2 of them I would be very, very happy to sell. But sadly for me, I've got 0 in the bank, and the 2 players that I'd like to sell are the 2 cheap ones. So let's start with the players that I'm very happy with. Obviously, last week I brought in Bukayo Saka. Not only have I been really impressed with Bukayo Saka himself, but I think Arsenal are somehow still defending really well. But in the last few weeks, I feel like they've stepped it up in terms of chance creation and how attacking they've managed to be. They're managing to put up like 2xG consistently per game. So I think over the next 3 games, Crystal Palace haven't been perfect defensively, by the way. As I've said throughout the content this week, they're 13th for XGC so far this season, which is the same defensive data as Wolves. Even if you don't believe in XG, even when you watch the games, Crystal Palace are giving up chances. And then it's Burnley and Sunderland. Burnley is the best fixture in the league for attackers. And I know Sunderland have only conceded like 6 goals or something crazy, but they are still average, sort of middle of the pack for defensive data. So it's still a game I would expect Saka to get chances. And then it's Spurs after that. So I look at the next 4 for Saka, and I'm very happy I have him. I know a lot of people have probably got Bruno in that spot. And I do miss Bruno Fernandes as a Manchester United fan. But if you were to give me a straight choice between Saka and Bruno, I'm very happy I brought Bukayo Saka in. Obviously, Semenyo's going nowhere. He's fantastic. Let's see how Forest look under Sean Dyche. Maybe it will be a really difficult fixture now. It obviously then is after that City and Villa, but beyond that, the fixtures then start to look very good once again for Bournemouth. So Saka, Semenyo going absolutely nowhere, as you can imagine. And I'm actually still very happy with Iliman Ndiaye. Now, if I was on a wild card this week, would I definitely include him? Maybe not. Like, I would love to have Enzo Fernandez and Ismail Assar. If there are 2 midfielders you could give me at a reasonable price, and you could say you could just take them right now, I would love to have the pair of them. So maybe I wouldn't be able to find a place for him if I also wanted Saka and Semenyo, but that doesn't mean I have an issue owning him. He's great for defensive contributions. He has 17 defensive contributions in Game Week 8, and he's a winger. He's on penalties. No, his underlying data isn't fantastic, but you guys always have a pop at me anyway for over-relying on XG. Watch the Everton games. And he's just such a fantastic, fantastic baller. He just really is so good at football. And when I was watching the highlights against Manchester City, I was just like, I'm just very happy to own a player that is this good at football. And it means that you would imagine he will overperform his XG as well. So I really like him. And for the next 5 fixtures, there are some attackable fixtures in there. Spurs is a good fixture right now. Sunderland isn't awful. Fulham, I don't love as much. Manchester United are giving up chances. Newcastle, not great. It's a bit of a mixed bag. But if Everton score goals, you'd say he's got a good chance of being involved in that. So for me, Saka, Semenyo and Ndiaye probably going nowhere as things stand, which then leaves me with Reijnders and Stack as the 2 midfielders that I would really, really like to sell. But as I just said, realistically, the only 2 midfielders that I would love to bring in right now are Enzo Fernandez and Ismail Assar. Now, that isn't to say players like Caicedo, Granit Xhaka, Longstaff aren't good assets. I would love to have Granit Xhaka instead of Reijnders or Stack. But also, selling Stack or Reijnders to Granit Xhaka also doesn't feel like a worthwhile transfer right now, when I can potentially save those 3 chances up and then rejig the funds to be able to allow me to move more funds into a certain position. If I could rejig the funds to get Stack up to Enzo, I'd rather do that than just making a sideways switch. So it almost feels at that point, if I'm just making a switch to another cheap midfielder, why not roll the transfer and allow myself to do something better in the future, is essentially what I'm trying to get at. On to Tijjani Reijnders, there is a lot of concern right now that he's not going to start in Game Week 9 because he was benched in Game Week 8 and he got, benched in the Champions League midweek and he got reduced minutes in Game Week 8. Obviously, he only played 58 minutes. Is there a slight concern with me that he doesn't start? Yes. My prediction is still that he starts, though. He's started basically every game for Man City so far this season, and he's a brilliant footballer, and I think Pep sees him as being absolutely crucial to that 11. Now, I think it was Bernardo Silva started in his absence and played very well, so there is always a worry. This just feels like a very Tijani Reijnders game, so I think he'll start. But if I had the ability, and I do, I suppose, if I make a couple of moves, to upgrade him, again, to someone like Enzo Fernandez, who we will discuss in the next section, because he doesn't come without his concerns, by the way, but it just would be such a massive upgrade to the team. I'd love to have an Enzo or a Sarr in that position right there. In terms of Anton Stack, I love the fact that he's cheap. Like, I don't really want to have 8 attackers that are all expensive, which means I have to cheap out in the defense, and then every week I'm benching an expensive attacker. I quite like having someone like a Stack, Longstaff, Xhaka-esque player there. It just so happens that Stack seems to be the worst of the bunch. He's getting nowhere near for DEFCON. Apparently, according to Leeds fans, he could become a rotation risk with Tanaka getting fit and available and ready to start. And also his goal threat and assist threat has dropped off a bit as well. He's not taking set pieces because Longstaff is taking them. He basically is offering absolutely nothing. So, yes, in an ideal world, I wouldn't like him. But really, if I was to get the bench boost out the way now, if I could this week, beyond that, I'd just slap him on the bench every single week and just play my other 7 attackers. So, yeah. So, put that together in the midfield. Saka, Semenyo, Njai, very happy with. Reijnders and Stack I'd like to sell. I don't really want to move them sideways, which comes back to the point of I need to free up some money if I want to upgrade them. And I'm going to discuss in the next section some possible transfers that I could make. So that's the midfield. And then as you can see, that is the bench. So if Anderson were to miraculously be fit, or I just directly replaced him, it's Dubravka against Wolves, Rodon against West Ham, Stack against West Ham, and then whoever my defender is for the week. It's a good bench boost. Like, Dubravka's not going to get a much better fixture. Rodon and Stack playing at home. I don't care if Nuno's in charge now. That's still a good fixture against West Ham. So it looked good. Like, the plan was always to bench boost this week, but I am now struggling with that Anderson spot. So let's take a look at the forwards, some possible transfers, and I'd love your opinion down below about whether you would still try to get the bench boost done this week. So guys, moving on to my front 3, and I of course have the very stinky pairing of João Pedro, who has Sunderland at home, Gyökeres against Crystal Palace at home. They've been so disappointing, the pair of them, and then Erling Haaland, who will be my captain. Just briefly on Haaland, this is probably the first week in terms of a fixture you'd say it's not ideal. I know Villa have been pretty rubbish defensively across the season thus far, but I think they're trending in the right direction. They tend to be better at Villa Park. And so I don't think this is necessarily 100% a Haaland captain week. But for me, I've said this in the past when Salah was basically our perma captain, I need to see something either from another asset which makes me think, God, you know what? They could match Haaland this week. And I don't see another asset in FPL right now in any week that can, let alone in a week like this where I don't think there are as many attackable fixtures. But then also on top of that, I need to see a bit of a drop-off from Haaland. So let's say, I don't know, let's say Semenyo, who, by the way, could do well against Forest at home. He's very popular. Let's say Semenyo had Burnley at home. Immediately, much more interesting. And let's say in the last 2 games, Haaland maybe only accumulates 0.3 XG and 0.4 XG, but still scores. Then in my head, I'm like, okay, Haaland's data's dropping. Semenyo's got a great fixture. We've got a viable alternative. But right now, it just feels like you're trying to randomly guess and predict when Haaland's going to stop getting over 1 XG and 2 to 3 big chances a game. Because every single game so far he's done it. Even when it's not in the Premier League and if it's the Champions League, he's still doing it too. So yeah, for me, I need to see something that would make me want to back against Haaland, and I've not seen that recently. On João Pedro and Gyökeres, yeah, these two have been absolutely dreadful. To think, by the way, I completely blocked this out. I don't know if it was just to save my mental health. I wildcarded Mateta out. I only just remembered the other day. I was like, oh my goodness, going into Game Week 6, I had Mateta in my team. And I wildcarded Mateta out for João Pedro and Gyökeres, who have absolutely stunk it up. Now, I've been saying all week, what you need to do if you've got João Pedro and Gyökeres and you're deciding, do I sell them for Mateta or Walter? What is important to you as a manager? Like, how do you decide which players you want? Is it based purely on form? If so, sell them this second. Is it based purely on fixtures? If so, you absolutely don't sell them anytime soon. If it's a combination of the two, which is most people, then that's a judgment call you need to make about timing and how much you think the fixtures will outweigh the form. For what it's worth, Gyökeres is definitely looking the more promising of the two. At least he's taking shots and he's making good runs. João Pedro, for me, is just playing such a squad part right now. He's been involved in the play, but not really looked at any point like he's going to get you any attacking returns. Now, the interesting thing on Chelsea, and I'll of course discuss this when I talk about Enzo Fernandez in a second, is GW has started as the 9 in the Champions League. Scored a goal, looked good, and I believe came off at half-time, or at least got an early substitution. Why that's interesting is when he came on at half-time in Game Week 8, he also looked fantastic. We've now seen 2 halves from GW where they've looked much better with GW as the number 9 and having a proper number 9 there. I've got a feeling GW might start, by the way. If you own him, it might be tempted to start him in Game Week 9. If GW starts in 9, not only does that mean Enzo Fernandez has to drop a bit deeper, but it probably means João Pedro goes in as the number 10. We know, and we've said it even when he was at Brighton, João Pedro as the 10, playing off a proper number 9 is much better. When did he get his haul this season? Playing off of Delap. And Delap, by the way, could be back soon as well. So I think when you put that all together, GW might get a start. Delap's not far away. And I think João Pedro is a quality footballer. I'm still going to be patient with him as well. So basically, yes, João Pedro and Gyökeres have been terrible. They've not shown too much that makes me want to keep them. But for different reasons, I do have faith in the pair of them. And Gyökeres in particular, seeing so many people lose faith, I kind of just want to give him the next 3 games. What is the worst that can happen? He blanks. So what? Like, no, it's just one of those things. Like, I think sometimes in FPL, you've just got to trust a little bit of an inkling or gut feeling you have. And I've just got a gut feeling that I'm not saying that he's going to get 9 goals in the next 3 games, but I think he gets a few returns. That's my prediction. And it could look absolutely terrible in 3 weeks when Gyökeres blanks in all of them. And of course, going into 10, I'm going to be looking at someone like a Jean-Philippe Mateta. And if I don't sell João Pedro or Gyökeres, I'm just not going to be able to get there. Also, when we now look at the entire team together, where am I finding money, really, if not Gyökeres and João Pedro? That's the concern I've got, because I've just said I'm happy with Saka, Semenyo, and Jai, Gabriel, Senesi. Reijnders and Stack I need to upgrade. Tarkowski I can sell, but he's only going to get me $1 million. The only place to free up money then is Gyökeres down to a Mateta or Waltemada, or João Pedro down to someone like Thiago. So I'm in this really awkward position where my gut feeling tells me stick with João Pedro, stick with Gyökeres, give them the next 3 to 4 fixtures when other people be selling, try and remain patient and just hope that they come good. But at the same time, I'm missing out on Enzo, Sarr, Mateta, because I can't get to these players unless I sell João Pedro and Gyökeres. So I am in that awkward position. I know a lot of people say what they did about Bruno. Just sell him. Gyökeres and João Pedro are terrible. People told me last week, sell Bruno. He's awful. He goes and gets an 8-pointer. These assets are good. They're just they're not performing right now. So I'll leave it there in terms of the team. I'm pretty happy with it if it were just like this. And I think if I'm not bench boosting this week, I don't really need to use a transfer. If I'm super, super worried about Reijnders' minutes, I'll just start Rodon in a back 4, or I start Anton Stack. I don't even need to sell him. I can just bench him potentially. So there we go. That's the team. Let's take a look at the possible transfers that I'm considering. And then, like I said, leave me a comment down below to let me know what you think I should do with my team. So guys, moving on to my possible transfers for Game Week 9. On your screen, you can see 4 possible options that I'm considering right now. Options 1 and 2 are if I'd like to bench boost, and I'm assuming Anderson is out. By the way, if Anderson's fit and available, I might just make no transfers and just go for it with the bench boost. But let's assume that he's out or that he's a major doubt, and I still definitely want to just get the bench boost done. Options 1 and 2 involve selling Anderson. Options 3 and 4 involve keeping Anderson under the assumption either he's fit and available or I just decide to delay the bench boost. So basically, yeah, options 1 and 2 sell Anderson. Options 3 and 4 keep Anderson either because he's fit or because I don't want a bench boost. So on option 1, it's basically the straight switch of Anderson out for an asset at his price or cheaper. Now, the reason that I don't want to make this move is because the only defender that I think even gets close to rivaling Anderson, because for me, by the way, Anderson is the best 4.5 million defender. Fulham have been really good defensively. They're 6th for XGC so far this season, and they've got good fixtures coming up. The only player that gets close to Anderson is Richards. So, as I said in the team selection section, I don't want to sell Anderson for a Palace defender that's playing Arsenal away to bench boost with them. It just feels like such a waste of a transfer. It almost feels like at that point, I think, again, don't bench boost or just bench boost with Anderson and just have one less player, which would be silly, I know, but it just doesn't feel high upside. There are other defenders that I could consider. People will list some of them down below. But what I don't want to make the mistake of doing, I'm going to probably own, if I replace Anderson for a 4.5 defender, I will own that defender for a long time, probably. Do I want to bring in a defender that isn't as good as Richards or Anderson just for the sake of a rubbish bench boost chip? No, I want to bring in a defender that I'm happy to have, and Richards is the only one for me, really, that I'd be super happy having. Option 2 then is basically if I want to sell Anderson, but I don't want to replace him at someone the same price and I want to upgrade him, I need to find the funds elsewhere. And the only way that I can see myself finding the funds to upgrade Anderson enough is by doing Gyökeres to Mateta. Now, my concern with this is I can't quite afford, and I'm so gutted because I would be very, very tempted. I'm 0.1 million off Gyökeres to Mateta and Anderson to Timber. Now, it wouldn't be the ideal week to do that because they play against each other, but then I'd be switching to what I think is the best three Arsenal. Timber, Gabriel, Saka. I'd be getting Mateta in, and I think Timber's great, and it solves my potential injury issue with Anderson. So I'm frustrated I can't afford that. I could go for Calafiori instead, but I think he carries a little bit more of a rotation risk. And I think Munoz is elite, by the way. Like, so good. 0.34 non-penalty expected goal involvement this season for him. I love the idea of bringing in Mateta and Munoz, but not this week. Like, it's just not a set of transfers to make this week, is it? Let's be honest. It's from Game Week 10, it's great. Of course, that means that I wouldn't be able to bench boost, but do I desperately want to bring in these two to bench boost anyway? Maybe not. This isn't me saying, by the way, that Crystal Palace can't get a result against Arsenal. You just look at entry points and this is not the one. Now, I could go for like Walter Marder and Reece James or something like that, but again, then I'm bringing in assets that I don't think are as good just for the sake of having one better fixture or for the sake of a bench boost. So I'm less keen on this as a result. And also, the thing is, if I were to roll rather than make the moves this week, then I might be able to free up the extra 0.1, 0.2 that I need to go Mateta Timber and then maybe another move instead. Like maybe I do Tarkowski, Anderson and Gyökeres to Mateta, Timber and Chalobah or something like that. You know what I mean? It could be a set of 3 transfers, but I can't do that this week without a hit. So I think option 2 is quite unlikely just because I don't think it's the week to target the players that I want. It kind of does feel a little bit similar about option 3, but I do really want Enzo Fernandez. So options 3 and 4 are basically, how can I upgrade Tijani Reijnders to Enzo Fernandez? I do really like Ismail Assar, by the way, like a lot. I just think if I'm choosing between the two right now, I'd rather have Enzo. But as I said in the team selection part of the video, Delap is back soon. Guiu's playing really well. I think Enzo, as early as this weekend, could drop back into a deeper role. And we don't know that he takes every penalty. In the Champions League, he took the first penalty, and then he very, 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 very clearly, by the way, I'm not trying to paint a different picture, gave the ball to Esteval to score the goal. I think someone said it makes him the youngest goal scorer in Chelsea's history in the Champions League or something like that. So I think he was doing what he should as a captain. But this does tell me something. Salah wouldn't give anyone a penalty. I don't care who it was at what age. Salah is the first choice penalty taker. Bruno Fernandes usually, as we've seen before, he even used to fight Ronaldo for them. Bruno will take the penalty. This shows me that Enzo is clearly happy, whether it be for form, age, sentiment, happy to give someone else the penalty. As I've said for a while, there were suggestions when he took the first penalty at Stamford Bridge that João Pedro gave that to him. So I'm not saying that Enzo's going to give the next penalty to João Pedro, but I'm saying he's not definitely got 100% share. Also, he only played 45 minutes. He's coming off the back of an injury. And Sunderland, you could argue, aren't a fixture to target. Now, I don't really know that I want to buy Enzo this week, so I'm just trying to give random negatives. Realistically, he's a fantastic asset. He's probably first choice penalty taker, great minutes, and even if he's playing a more defensive role, he's still very attacking, putting up really good underlying data. I really like Enzo Fernandez as a pick. But to be able to do Reijnders to Enzo Fernandez, I think I can see 2 potential routes right now. I don't want to sell João Pedro for me. I just think I would kick myself if he does really well, considering the fixtures over the next 3 to 4. So the only way is to either do the Gyökeres to Mateta move. So Reijnders to Enzo, Gyökeres to Mateta. That looks quite good, actually. Like, Reijnders is an issue, get rid of him. Gyökeres is fine, but Mateta is arguably just as good, if not better. As a set of 2 moves, I really like that. And then the other option I've got, as of right now, I can afford it. And I don't think price changes look like they're going to be too harsh for me. So I might even be able to delay this until Friday. Is to do Reijnders to Enzo, I downgrade Tarkowski to someone 4.4 million or less. Unfortunately, again, I can't go to 4.5. Otherwise, Tarkowski to Richards and Reijnders to Enzo would look sensational. At 4.4 million, don't laugh at me, the standout option is probably Van Hecker. He's averaging just under the 10 defcon per 90. I think he's already hit it on 3 or 4 occasions. Last week, he had 16 defensive contributions. He's really not bad as a shout. Brighton are about mid-table for defensive data, and the fixtures coming up aren't bad. And Tarkowski, as much as I like him, I own him for the defcon. I don't think clean sheets feel that likely with Everton right now. He's not got much attacking threat. Van Hecke can do that for 1.1 million cheaper. So just to recap, in case you're listening rather than watching, because if you're watching, it's very easy to follow. Option 1, Anderson to Richards. Straight swap, 1 transfer, bench boost with that team. Option 2, Anderson to Munoz, Gyökeres to Mateta. Still bench boost, but I'm bringing in double Palace against Arsenal away. Option 3, Reijnders to Enzo, and to fund that Gyökeres to Mateta. I've still got wiggle room there, 0.3 in the bank, so I should be able to afford that comfortably. And then option 4, still the Reijnders to Enzo, but I fund that rather than selling Gyökeres. I stay patient with him. I fund that by doing Tarkowski to Van Hecke. Obviously, with options 3 and 4, unless Anderson is deemed fit, that would mean that I am delaying the bench boost. So if I go back to my team now, hopefully that's all made sense. I know it can get a little bit confusing. There's so many nuances and things that I'm thinking about. I could do everything from rolling and bench boost, rolling and no bench boost, 1 transfer and bench boost, 1 transfer and no bench boost, 2 transfers and bench boost. I've considered everything. The only thing that I don't really want to do is take a hit right now, because I think my team does look okay. I don't need to bench boost this week. And a lot of the moves that I've just spoken about there, if I switch back to that graphic, if I can find it, there we go. A lot of these can wait. Do I need Enzo before Sunderland at home? Not desperately. Do I need... Most of these involve Palace assets coming in against Arsenal away. Could they wait a week? Probably. So it probably does make sense to bin off the bench boost, roll the transfer, and then with 3 free transfers in Game Week 10, attack moving forward. But yeah, I'd love to know down below what you think. Maybe I'm overthinking it at this stage. I'm happy enough with the team. Let me know what your rating of my team would be down below. And let me know if you were planning the bench boost this week. Are you selling Anderson, or are you just going to go without? So guys, there we have it. That is my Game Week 9 team selection. Thank you for watching to this point. If you're still watching, which you are, thank you very much. I appreciate you. And make sure to subscribe. Make sure to drop a like as well. And make sure to tune into the video tomorrow and the deadline stream tomorrow evening. It's a Friday evening deadline. Make sure not to forget it. Until next time, thank you very much. Bye-bye.